Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihar Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Prajjanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajjanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braj Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braj Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, everyone. I'll start with the Prabhupada Leela Amrit. And I'll share my screen to where. Screen to. So start with since he would. Yesterday we stopped here, where he could carry out his desires to preach Krishna consciousness within the ashramas of his god brothers. So since he would soon be the editor of Sajjana Toshani, he began thinking of how to expand it. It was a scholarly Vaishnava journal, but cheaply produced and with a very limited circulation. He envisioned it surpassing India's slick illustrated weekly. It should be more popular than Time of Life magazine of America. And why not? Krishna was no poor man. Although thought of how he could start an ambitious scriptions program by approaching the many prominent and wealthy men of New Delhi. Then by Krishna's grace, he would soon be able to print color photos and use high quality paper for Sajjana Toshani. He would give it his best effort depending on Krishna, and while soliciting subscriber, he could take his book manuscripts and try to get them published. Dr. Alagappa in South India had wanted to publish his Gitanopushad, no doubt there were many men like him. Or perhaps Bhakti Saranga Goswami would be willing to publish Abhay's works with fund from the Gaudiya Sangha. Abhay soon received a letter from Bhakti Saranga Goswami's assistant, carefully instructing him how to travel to Delhi at the least expense. He was to travel by train third class to Delhi and from there take a tanga. Since tanga at the station, I think it's tanga. So yeah, since tanga at the station gate charged too much, Abhay should first walk around 100 meters towards the right-hand side of a station, where he would find a cheaper one, where he to ride alone. He should pay no more than 1 rupee and 12 annas. But he should try to share the tanga with another passenger. That would be cheaper. Keeping the crematorium to your left-hand side, the assistant instructed him. If you look towards the right, then you will be able to see our red flag and the signboard written in Hindi and English. When you reach here, we will pay for the tanga. So at the Gaudiya Sangha, Abhay found a disconcerting state of affairs. In the absence of their guru, Bhakti Saranga Goswami, the brahmacharis were quarreling and shirking their duties. And as a result, the preaching and donation gathering were being neglected. Cleanliness, deity worship, cooking, and even peace amongst the devotees were below standard. And like most of the matters of his god brothers, the Gaudiya Sangha was poor. Abhay had come thinking he would be editing a magazine, but he found himself contending with a group of quarreling neophyte devotees. He learned that the brahmachari responsible for giving public lectures had not done any preaching. The devotees who had previously been holding kirtanas in people's homes were now negligent, and the errant's boy refused to run because he had lost his bicycle. Then a brahmachari handed Abhay a letter from Bhakti Saranga Goswami requesting him to take up the general management of the matha. Inspire everyone to be engaged in service. Otherwise, I do not know how we are going to print the English monthly magazines. Since we don't have much money in the fund, and since the brahmacharis are quite careless, Akinchin Maharaj wrote that he is unable to take the responsibility of the management. It will be very nice if you could keep your eyes on these affairs. And Abhay found other obstacles in trying to produce Sajjana Toshni, no typewriter, and bad relations with the printer. In a few days, Abhay received another letter from Bhakti Saranga Goswami telling him what articles to print, cautioning him not to change essential elements in the magazine and reminding him of his special duty. I asked Akinchin Maharaj to hand over the keys of my room to you so that you may use my room only for your office work. As you are there, you should try to maintain peace in the ashrama for giving necessary instructions to one and all. Abhay saw that he could do no editorial work until the laxity and petty quarreling in the ashrama stopped. But when he tried to help as Bhakti Saranga Goswami had directed, some of the devotees rebelled and even wrote to their spiritual master complaining. It was against many obstacles that Abhay met the publisher's deadline for the August 1955 issue of Sajjana Toshani. Yet, owing to the printer's delay, the magazine did not come out until September. When at last the first copies were delivered, Abhay sent several to Bhakti Saranga Goswami in Calcutta asking for his response. Abhay never heard from his godbrother directly, but received further instruction from Bhakti Saranga Goswami's secretary, Ramananda, who pointed out various mistakes in the issue without mentioning whether Bhakti Saranga had been pleased with it. The errors were mostly technical matter of style. Abhay had done the contents page in a different way and had not printed Bhakti Saranga Goswami's name exactly as he had wanted it on all his articles. Regarding Abhay's request for a typewriter, Ramananda wrote that if the matters are distinctly written, there is no necessity of them being given to the printer in typewriting. Abhay wrote to Bhakti Saranga Goswami requesting him to return to Delhi and establish a peaceful atmosphere in the Matha regarding Sajjana Toshani. Bhakti Saranga Goswami had suggested that the paper for the cover could be improved and the whole magazine be done on nicer paper by an up-to-date press, and Abhay agreed, but improvements depended on money. The suggestions that the paper may be printed from Calcutta is all right, but my suggestion is that either in Calcutta or in Delhi, we must have our own press with good equipments so that we may be able to broadcast the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all the important languages, especially in Hindi and in English. Hindi is meant for all India propaganda, while English is meant for worldwide propaganda. And we further reported that since it was almost impossible to expect a printer to work speedily from handwritten manuscripts, he had already rented a typewriter. He also mentioned his ideas for increasing the number of subscribers. So I'll stop here, Mataji.
Yes, thank you, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. So just my screen is working, but it's working a little funny. Okay. So we will now recite a mantra, but before we do that, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udariyat Nashtapraye Sabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Jashtiki. So today's verse we have got is from Canto 4, chapter 21, verse number 46. Putrena jayate lokan iti satyavati shruti brahma danda hata papo yadveno tyatarattama. Putrena jayate lokan iti satyavati shruti brahma danda hata papo yadveno tyatarattama. Putrena jayate lokan iti satyavati shruti brahma danda hata papo yadveno tyatarattama. Anybody would like to recite, please?
Hare Krishna.
Putrena
jayate lokan iti satyavati shruti brahma danda hata papo yadvena tyatarattamaha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, I'm also trying.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Putrena jayate lokan iti satyavati srutihi ब्रह्मदण्डहत पापो यद्वेन अत्यतरस्तमः. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Putrena jayate lokan iti satyavati shrutihi brahmadanda hataha papo yadvena tyatarattama. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I am also trying.
Try, Mataji.
Putrena jayate lokan iti satyavati shrutihi brahma danda hata papo jadvena attataratamaha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I will try.
Okay, Mataji.
Putrena jayate lokan iti satyavati shruti brahmadanda hata papo yatveno atyatarattama.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Try, Mataji. Hare
Nanda
Krishna.
Pranams Mataji. Putrena jayate lokan iti satyavati sruti brahmadanda papo yadveno atyatarattamaha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Right, we can go word to word translation. Putrena, by the sun. Jayate, one become victorious. Lokan, all the heavenly planets. Iti, thus. Satyavati, become true. Shruti, the Vedas. Brahmadanda, by the curse of the Brahmanas. Hata, killed. Papa, the most sinful. Yet, as Vena, the father of Maharaj Prithu. Ati, great. Atarat, become delivered. Tama, from the darkness of hellish life. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. They all declared that the Vedic conclusion that one conquered the heavenly planets by the action of a putra or son was fulfilled for the most sinful Vena, who had been killed by the curse of the Brahmanas, was now delivered from the darkest region of hellish life by his son Maharaj Prithu. According to the Vedic version, there is a hellish planet called Put, and one delivers a person from there is called Putra. The purpose of marriage, therefore, is to have a Putra or son who is able to deliver his father, even if the father falls down to the hellish condition of Put. Maharaj Prithu's father, Vena, was a most sinful person and was therefore cursed to death by the Brahmanas. Now, all the great saintly persons, sages, and Brahmanas present in the meeting, after hearing from Maharaj Prithu about his great mission in life, became convinced that the statement of the Vedas had been fully proved. The purpose of accepting a wife in religious principle as sanctioned in the Vedas is to have a putra, a son qualified to deliver his father from the darkest region of hellish life. Marriage is not intended for sense gratification, but for getting a son fully qualified to deliver his father. But if a son is raised to become an unqualified demon, how can he deliver his father from hellish life? It is therefore the duty of a father to become a Vaishnava and raise his children to become Vaishnavas. Then even if by chance the father falls into a hellish life in his next birth, such a son can deliver him as Prithu Maharaj delivered his father. A very nice purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते वेदव्यासप्रिय स्वामीति नाम्ने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाशातदेशतायिने जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Stop sharing. So very important verse, very important message by Prabhupada in the purport as well. So we'll start with the word, by picking the word putra, where he has explained in the purport that there is a hellish planet called Put, and one who delivers from that hellish planet called Put is called Putra. So we have similar words like Putra, Mantra. So if we observe the meaning, then Put means hellish planet and Tra means one who delivers. So Putra, one who delivers from hellish planet. Similarly, we have Mantra. So Mana means mind and Tra means one who delivers. So again, through mantra, we deliver our mind. So through chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we can deliver the mind. So, and it is great risk if we don't become Krishna consciousness, or if our children don't get become Krishna consciousness, because then we'll get into the hellish condition of life. And to save ourselves, the Krishna consciousness is a very good platform to protect us in terms of getting into the hellish condition of life. And one must become a Vaishnava. Not only the Putra, but one must themselves try to become a Vaishnava and become Krishna consciousness. And there are 4 sampradayas where one can become Krishna consciousness or Vaishnava. And first one is, we all know, it's Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya we are in. And then Kumaras, Shri Sampradayas, Rudra Sampradayas. And I was asked a question very recently that, because you are in this particular Sampradaya, you think Krishna is supreme. But if you notice, in all these 4 bona fide Sampradayas, the essence is same. Krishna or Lord Vishnu is mentioned as the supreme. And they all worship Lord Vishnu and Krishna as the supreme. So if spiritual master is not coming in the sampradayas, so if somebody takes initiation outside of these bona fide sampradaya, then that is going to give no effect. Even that mantra will have no effect. It's why it's very important to be linked to a bona fide spiritual master. And there's one very important point that Brahma Madhva Sampradaya, Brahma Madhva Sampradaya that we are in, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, there's one very special mercy that Sampradaya has got, and that is Lord Chaitanya has chosen to appear in this disciplic succession. That makes it very special for us to be delivered through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And going back to that Putra and Putri, or the son. So in Vedic days, people were following the Vedic principles. They had a lot of understanding of what is the meaning of having a putra, what is the purpose of having a putra. So the purpose is mentioned here very clearly, is to deliver one from the hellish condition of life. But nowadays we see that people don't want putra, or putra, basically the purpose that one who can deliver them from the put. People don't want that. People want an ordinary son who is materially very successful, or something very attractive in terms of material world, but not in terms of spirituality. And in fact, if someone's get into Krishna consciousness, you will see so many parents, so many relatives, they get worried, they get scared. I don't know why, but they do get scared. And it's quite unfortunate that the world has degraded. There is an example of my relative. When I took Krishna consciousness, my parents were very happy. So I was lucky in that case. But my relatives were criticizing that, oh, your daughter is she's torturing herself by eating only prasad, and this is not how to live life, and she's missing out on all the fun. And she was saying, I have seen the world, people who get into these things so much. There was one family who got into so much and their daughter died at a very young age. They say all these negative things, and they think that getting into spirituality is just related to that. But what they forget, that regardless of when somebody dies, it's nothing to do with how you connect to Krishna, because everybody is going to die and everybody's death is destined. So if we are going to die anyway, it's better to die in Krishna consciousness. So this is the main essence that people miss. And they compare material progress of their children. They feel very proud of it, but it's unfortunate that people are not very proud when their kids or relatives' kids are spiritually, they are trying to progress. There was very recently, it was a funny incident for me, but maybe not for them. But one of my dad's friends called him and said him, oh, my son has joined ISKCON. And he was very upset. It was like, oh, he has become a devotee. And he said, I couldn't sleep from so many nights thinking now his life is ruined. And he was so worried. And then over the phone, he spoke to my dad and he gave examples of my examples, that how I live my life, and becoming devotee doesn't make us alien. In fact, we have a better standard of living life, and it has got a lot of spiritual benefits. So after talking to him and after hearing about how me and Bhajan Prabhu are practicing Krishna consciousness, he was relieved that, oh, I know someone, my friends' kids are also following it, and the situation is not too bad. So people are so degraded that they have so much deviated from the main focus of life, that is to make your children Krishna consciousness. They feel happy if they are materially successful, but we have to change that consciousness to make sure that we should make our children spiritual and successful in Krishna consciousness. And to do that, it starts from the very, very initial time, even from before the soul even comes to the womb, from Garbhadan Sanskar, which not many people are doing it. So Prabhupada has given very good guidance to all of us in this process, which is quite, we are quite protected to have so much of knowledge, and we have got that mercy that we know about Garbhadan Sanskar, how to perform chanting 50 rounds, and all of that. That knowledge is there with us, so we can make our children Krishna consciousness from the very beginning. And as he has mentioned in the purport, that marriage is not intended for sense gratification, but for getting a son fully qualified to deliver his father. It is therefore a duty of a father to become a Vaishnava and raise his children to become Vaishnavas. Then even by chance, the father falls into a hellish life in his next birth, such a son can deliver him, as Maharaj Prithu delivered his father. So parents must be conscious for raising Krishna conscious children. It starts, as I mentioned, starts even from the birth, before from Garbhadan Sanskar to the pregnancy stage. So when mother is pregnant, they are practicing Krishna consciousness as much as possible, engage in different services as practical as possible, either reading, chanting, kirtan. There are many ways of doing devotional service and remember Krishna. So that helps to develop the spiritual consciousness of the child within the womb. So it is parents' responsibility to make sure they are giving that consciousness to their children. And it is in fact the main thing that they forget. It is for their benefit that even if they don't become Krishna conscious, if they make or encourage their children to become Krishna consciousness, ultimately they are doing a favor on themselves, because putra or putri means that they are going to be delivered from the hellish condition of life. So, and in this verse, which we have read, we saw the example of Maharaj Prithu, that how he was a successful son. He delivered his father. His father was very sinful. His father, King Vena. A little bit background, which of course you all would know. But when the rishis assembled in the assembly, everyone was hearing Prithu Maharaj on how whole planet can function very well. And when they heard those instructions and saw how self-realized and selfless Maharaj Prithu was, all those exalted personalities said that the Vedic conclusion has been fulfilled. So what was that Vedic conclusion that they were talking about? So that was that one can conquer the heavenly planets by the action of a putra. So for the most sinful Vena, he was cursed by a Brahmana to be died, but he would be delivered from the darkest region of hellish life. And that's where it was proven that how qualified son in Krishna consciousness can fulfill that Vedic injunction or conclusion. And here in the translation, you hear that King Vena has been described as the most sinful. Why? Because he was supposed to protect people, but he was killing people for fun, for play. He was stopping people who were spiritually inclined and wanted to worship Lord, but he was saying, no, don't worship Lord, just worship me. And then when Brahmana warned him, multiple times they have warned him, he would not listen. And before Brahmana was so powerful that if king is not behaving properly, they can curse. So they cursed and they killed him. And his body was kept. So when Krishna kills, the soul becomes liberated. But when Brahmanas kill, they go to hellish condition of life. So that means King Vena got into the hellish condition. And his body was kept, and they churned his body. And while churning his body, Maharaj Prithu appeared from the body of King Vena. And he was, of course, the Satya Vaishya avatar. So, but he delivered his father. And all the saintly person who were present in the assembly were convinced with this statement that yes, a qualified son can deliver his father from the hellish condition of life. So there is one story of Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. I heard this in a lecture, that when Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj he was in Vrindavan with Prabhupada. His father passed away, and he thought he possibly need to go and perform the Vedic rituals so his father can be delivered from any impious deeds. And Prabhupada said there was no need for him to do such. And he got an instruction to continue his services to Krishna. So from this example, we can understand that same essence of worshipping the Supreme. So if you water the roots of the tree, then branches, leaves, flowers, they all get benefit. So if Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is pleased, then he can fulfill the desire of anyone who worship him. Especially Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj desired that he wanted to deliver his father. So there is a very important verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that explains this statement, that how just by worshipping Krishna, Vedic rituals are not required to be done. So that verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 5th chapter, verse number 41. The translation is, O king, one who has given up all material duties and has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind's, or even one's forefathers who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme, one who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. So in that verse, Pitram, so Pitram means that the family in which you have taken your birth. So the family that we have taken birth in, we are indebted to the forefathers. And therefore, there is a Vedic ritual that in certain time you have to offer respect to your forefathers, something called Shraddha ceremony. So during the month of October, there's a general Shraddha ceremony in India that people perform, because we are indebted to the forefathers. And if we think about it, we are not only indebted to our forefathers, but we also have obligations to many demigods, like sun who gives us light and energy. We are indebted for him to provide that light. We are indebted to moon. We are indebted to air for giving us air, which is the prana, and many other devtas, rishis, and bhutas. So in so many ways, we are indebted and obligated. But this verse, which said that we don't need to fulfill those obligations as long as we are worshipping the Supreme. So there is also one more verse from Bhagavata that explains how just by surrendering to Krishna, all our obligations are removed. It goes as, if someone fully surrender onto the Supreme Mukunda. Mukunda means one who can offer you liberation from this material bondage. He is Mukunda. So if one surrenders fully onto Krishna, Krishna is Mukunda, then he is no longer any more indebted to all these obligations. He is immune. So at one stroke, he just removes all the obligations. Or he kind of fulfills all the obligations. So, which is a great advantage of practicing Krishna consciousness. And then we have a similar example of where another son delivered a sinful father. Actually, if the father is not sinful and already Krishna consciousness, then son doesn't need to deliver, because through Krishna consciousness, the father or the parent themselves get delivered. So that's why it's not that, that is why this connection is like this. So the another example from Bhagavatam is the example of Prahlad Maharaj. So who had delivered his sinful father Hiranyakashipu. So when Lord Narasimhadev asked Prahlad Maharaj for benedictions, he asked to please give him opportunities to engage in devotional service. the first thing he asks is devotional service. And then he said, but if you do insist, then could you please liberate my father? So Prahlad Maharaj was already learned. He knew that the moment Hiranyakashipu is being killed by Lord Narasimhadev, he has already been liberated. But just to get the reassurance, he is asking that, could you please liberate my father? And Narasimhadev said that not only your father, but 14 generations of your family are liberated. And I'm so pleased with your devotional service. So we see that by serving the Supreme Lord, one gives the best service to the family. Because if one becomes a Vaishnava, pure Vaishnava, the whole family actually, up to the 14 generations, they become liberated. So devotees don't only get chance to deliver their father or mother or parents, but also the 14 generations. And also by making our Krishna conscious, our children Krishna conscious, we increase our chance of deliverance. So in case if we make a mistake or somehow we couldn't perfect, then at least we have a backup that our children are Krishna conscious and we will be delivered from the hellish conditions. And there is very important conversation, very interesting conversation in this context by Srila Prabhupada in a morning walk. There was one devotee who asked Prabhupada that we hear from Prahlad Maharaj's story that one who become a devotee, the statement is that 14 generations of his family, past, present, and future become liberated. So what kind of liberation does the family members of a pure Vaishnava get? What kind of liberation that is? And Prabhupada answered that liberation means, that is explained in Chaitanya by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is that liberation means to become devotee. That is liberation. To become a devotee is itself a liberation. So, of course, practicing devotees are trying to become a devotee, but once a person becomes a Shuddha Bhakta, it's itself a liberation. Thank you, everyone. I'll end it here and would like to invite if anybody have any comments or questions.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Very, very important for all of us to understand the importance of family tree and especially Putra, how it influences the whole family, present and future. It's beautifully explained through examples of Prithu Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj, and finally at the morning walk through Srila Prabhupada. It's so important to become a devotee. Becoming a devotee itself is a liberation. So thank you so much, giving even in your personal examples that clearly shows us the way to be treated us. It is very important. That's why we say charity begins at home. It is important for all the parents to make the children the real education that comes from the home itself. And then it goes substantially, it grows up when they grow up. So it is very important for the parents to make their understanding of the children to follow the scripture and eventually try to become a devotee. In this way, the family becomes liberated. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, nice class.
Hi, Krishna Mataji.
Yes, it's very important to to be a devotee. And just one question. Yeah, we always know about that putra, but what about the putri?
I think putri is also put means hell, and tri must be to putri also delivers, because if you notice, if there is any devotee, they will have an influence. That is the power of devotee regardless of the gender, because we are spirit soul. So it matters of that Krishna consciousness can be spread even by a putri or a putra. But I think in this context, it is talking about the Vedic injunction where a putra did lots of Vedic rituals, which putri doesn't does. That putri usually goes to a different house and usually don't participate in the end of life's rituals. So that's why the word putra is more mentioned here. Even father is mentioned here, but I'm sure that is for mother as well. So,
yeah, because in our devotee life, we know this is both are important, but even in the Shraddha ceremony, those who are the non-devotee, they always ask for the putra. Yeah, even they don't allow putri to do this. So yeah, also I found that my grandma's time, that time they love putra putri, but I found they are more inclined to their putras.
yes, because that understanding is less. Like when my grandfather expired, I was very attached to him. And in our own family, only I was the devotee. So then I become not really directly his putri, but kind of his grand putri. But I've done a lot of things like feeding devotees when he expired, and distributed Bhagavad Gita, and also I had some lot of recitation at home. I'm sure through that his soul would have got liberated even with a putri. So that is the whole purpose, that we should be able to give Krishna consciousness, and that is the responsibility of all the children.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we understand because we are devotees, but those who are, the non-devotee, they still they think about about the putra.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's a good answer. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madhu. Shama Mataji, if no one has got a question or comment, then should we end the class here?
Yes, Mataji, it appears there is no other comments to make from other people, so we can end the class.
कृपा सिन्धुभयेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। हार ग्रेस अनंगलता देवी दासी की जय। प्रभुपाद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.